his counterpart Felix Tshisekedi in Cairo on Wednesday. Also, this meeting focused on means to strengthen bilateral relations in various domains, in addition to a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern. Following their talks, the two leaders held a joint press conference during which President Sisi reiterated that Egypt is abide by consolidating, constructing dams in the Democratic Republic of Congo in order to achieve development for its people, supplying the country's support and building capabilities for the state's national cadres. And to shed more light on this topic, I'm so delighted to be accompanied over the phone by Dr. Mohamed Salah, the political expert, to speak more about this very confidential visit. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be with you, and I wish you and all of your followers a fruitful conversation, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Well, of course, we've seen this steady steps that our foreign policy, whether our foreign policy is working through or our state represented in His Excellency President Al-Fattah al-Sisi. Today's visit by his counterpart, Congolese counterpart, discussed many issues following lots also of visits and summits. One of those issues or main concerning is also the consolidation and the consolidating, constructing dams in the Democratic Republic. First of all, how do you see this visit and how important that is, and as we saw the ceremony and of course the reception?
Let me say that at the early beginning that we have a very confidential and very important and historical relations between Egypt and the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'd like to say that we have a very important ties with the Congolian people, and we have to know well that we have an ancient relations also that comes out from the age of President Gamal Abdel Nasser, and about the rule of the Egyptian rule and a very important rule that have been played by Egypt in the process of liberalization of the Congolian people. All of these ties and all of these important and historical ties between Egypt and Democratic Republic of Congo makes these relations or makes these ties very confidential and very strong and very productive for both sides, for Egypt and for Democratic Republic of Congo in general. Let me say that the Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the most important members of Nile TV, and as we know, we have a lot of problems regarding Nile TV initiative, and Egypt is counting on many basic responsibilities or many basic bases in order to activating Nile TV initiatives in order to produce or to give or to deliver a kind of sustainable development for the African countries in Nile TV. And so Egypt is producing throughout this cooperation in installing dams in Congolian rivers in general and in Congo in general. Egypt is counting on presenting a very fruitful and a very important role or a very important play for a kind of cooperation between Egypt and our brothers in Nile Basin in general, giving them another way of exchanging benefits between the rights of the African nations in development. On the other side, keep the rights of Egypt on its historical issue or historical rights on the Nile River in general. So these kind of developments and this kind of projects that will be done by Egypt in Congo will produce a new method or a new episode or a new model for cooperation between Egypt and Nile Basin countries in general.
Well, Dr. Mohamed Salah, of course, we've seen lately the expansion or how Egypt is expanding more in the African Horn, not just when it comes to trade or acting as a gateway, connecting the European countries also with the African continent, stressing on the clarity and the sovereignty and the integrity of the African countries that suffers from lots of consequences related to the wars and stuff. But we speak about how is it important? Because Egypt is the core of the African continent. Now, the head of the state also expressed the two countries' determination to continue serious efforts aimed at increasing the trade exchange rate and encouraging investments between the two countries. Furthermore, that Egypt already is executing with lots of infrastructure projects and mega projects when it comes to our sisterly and brotherly countries in the African Horn.
I think that Egypt is playing a very important role regarding the development process in African continent in general. And we have to keep in mind that we are performing, or we are establishing in many ways, or lots of ways, especially we are talking about Alexandria Victoria Road. And would like to say that we'll have another way regarding or throughout the Nile River. We are helping them or solving the problem of that many of the African nations and countries do not have ports on the Red Sea or on the Atlantic Oceans or on the Indian Ocean. So they are deprived of exchanging, or deprived of exchanging goods, exchanging cultures. We don't have any other ports to complete the process of trade or international trade with the other world in general. So in this way, Egypt is producing or giving them the solution by making the benefits between using the Egyptian ports, using the Egyptian shores, the Egyptian ways, in order to exchange these goods with the Europe or with the Asian side at the other side. Egypt here is making a kind or a symbol of integration between our facilities and our location and our goods and our infrastructure. As you have invested invested a lots of efforts and time and money on having a very productive and a very excellent infrastructure that will enable Egypt to exchange goods, to exchange benefits with others, and being a mediator between the African nations and the European nations in general. In Africa, you have a lot of raw materials, you have a lot of goods, a lot of food, and a lot of beverages. All of these ideas could be exported to others, to markets in Asia or in Europe. So Egypt will provide the African nations with the solutions which is needed to complete this important process, which will give them a lots of benefits and a lots of economic solutions that will help them to develop their situation and give them to reach our goals or their goals on sustainable development.
Well, speaking about, of course, Africa and those countries, let's not forget to mention that our foreign policy is doing a great job. Lots of summits. We've seen the ministerial meeting that was held in Seoul with the participation of Dr. Badr Abdelati, of course, tackling lots of issues, including also the security and the sovereignty of the African continent and the African countries, which means the safe region means a safe economy and safe investments, with purchasing more, and the initiative by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi changing the African debts into investments, one of those, and also building one of the biggest health care centers in Africa. So we are executing those projects already, and we're speaking about more expanding when it comes to trade, when it comes to investment, and also when it comes to the integrity and the territorial integrity of any brotherly African country.
Well, let us say that Egypt, when Egypt is investing on the process of development in Africa, whether in Democratic Republic of Congo or any other African nation, we are investing in our national security, and we are helping them to find solutions, as we have lots of problems that the others are waiting for having military solutions for the different disagreements that's happening now between Egypt and some of the African nations on Nile scene. But now Egypt is giving another kind of solutions, which is depending on having both or bilateral benefits based on bilateral integration and bilateral relations between Egypt and our brothers in Africa. We have to notice that also that the answer for all the questions that's done by the others for Egypt and for Nile facing countries in general will be this answer will be brought by commerce, by trade, by exchanging benefits, by giving or strengthening ties between the both peoples, whether in Egypt or in Africa. And you have to know well that Egypt will have a very leadership role on providing them with their basic needs and give them a lot of ideas regarding their international community and international integration between Egypt and Nile Palestine in general. This will give a fruitful actions, or give a fruitful results for both sides. For the Egyptian side, by having more investments and by having more investments, foreign trade, foreign hard currency, all of these benefits will come out for Egypt. And for the African nations, they will have very good and productive projects. They will enlarge their standard of living. They will have a lots of benefit on the other side by the Egyptian experience and by the power of the Egyptian companies in all fields of life, not only on dams or not only on waters or rivers in general. We have a very good experience on our agenda or on our strategic agenda Egypt 2030, and we have gained a lot, or have achieved a lot of benefits that will be transferred to our brothers in Africa, inshallah.
Of course, we're speaking about Egypt's 2030 agenda. I think we exceeded that, speaking about the infrastructure, the renewable energy, the green energy, actually, and all of that. So we're just walking parallel in a very steady path. We are just giving our consultation also to the brotherly African countries when it comes to infrastructure, because our president is always assuring an infrastructure will lead to biggest major projects, will lead to a lot of a big call for foreign investments when it comes to Africa. Stressing on that, we need to mention that the summit is going to be held very soon in Alamein in the end of the month, of course, with the participation of lots of African countries and with His Excellency Dr. Badr Abdelati, stressing on lots of issues is going to be tackled, and of course with the push or the encouragement of our state.
I think this kind of summits that's counted or have been made by Egypt when Egypt have took the leadership on the African Union, and we have to know that the African Union really were fully activated after the leadership of Egypt to it when done by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and I think that Egypt is looking forward looking for finding many solutions for all the African problems, especially when we are talking about security, how to have a peaceful relations between each Africans, how to maintain or produce bilateral exchanges, or how to exchange ideas, exchange benefits, especially when we are talking about lots of problems, especially between neighbors in Africa. We have a lot of problems regarding borders. We have a lot of problems regarding the corridors or the development corridors, whether on the Red Sea or in the Indian Ocean or Atlantic Ocean. We have a lot of raw material which is being weighed, or we are looking forward to make the best use of this material. In order, or in general, we have to know well that we are formulating a new formula. It's how to keep peace, or how to have peace throughout cooperation between different African countries. How to reach these solutions, and this is the mission of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, or this is the target by His Excellency while we are talking about the African relations or about the African Union in general. And I think Egypt have achieved a lots of goals regarding these ideas, and have achieved a lots of not only with the Republic Democratic of Congo, but also about South Sudan, about what we have achieved on Tanzania. All of these projects, about the Egyptian projects in Africa, have achieved a lots of goals. And as a result for this, we are looking forward a peaceful future for all the African nations, God willing.
God, well, we hope for the best, of course, for not just for the African nation, but also for the whole world. Speaking about also some initiatives that Egypt launched when it comes to its brotherly countries, as the Democratic Congo, as we said, is the fighting of the Ebola virus, sending doctors and sending lots of aids when it comes to this, and that was held by the other African state.
I think it's an ordinary role that is happening or taken by Egypt. Egypt is standing beside our African neighbors in general, providing them with the needs what they are needing for to find or to fight these diseases or to have these problems such as what's happening now in Democratic Republic of Congo. I think Egypt will not be late by providing them with all their needs. About we were talking about capabilities, doctors, all of these doctors and others, other ideas or other informations or other supplies will help them to provide or to fight these diseases or this idea what's happening in Congo now. And this is not the first time for Egypt to stand beside any African nation that's fighting such as diseases or the actions like this. We have done this. There are lots before, and will continue to do this during the leadership role of the Egyptian country on the Middle East and in Africa in general. Will provide them with all of these needs. I think that the Egyptian state will help them to go away and to fight the diseases. And I think we'll have a final. We'll end up this problem that's happening during to the health about the health in Democratic Republic of Congo, God willing.
Dr. Mohamed, we need to speak more about also the project that Egypt been speaking about for a while, is that connecting the whole African continent with one road from Egypt to Cape Town.
True, and this is one of the mega projects that is counted or that is done by the Egyptian country in general in order to strengthen the relations and the ties between, not only between Egypt and Africa, but also between all the African nations in general. We have to know well that Africa is a very rich with resources, whether we are talking about food, whether we are talking about raw materials. But what makes them unusable is they do not have the solution to export all of these goods outside their lands due to they are deprived of ports, they are deprived of any shores on the lands, on the seas or oceans. So this project, this mega project, will help them. Will have a very good and fruitful business for the Egyptian and the Africans in general. We will have now in Egypt. We have lots of problems that are lots of projects that are talking about. We will produce lots of goods and lots of machines. What are our markets will be done? I think Africa and the African nations are representing the potential market for our production, our productivity. So they will exchange benefits that will have them help them to export their raw materials, to export their food, they export their goods. Then on the other hand, we will have to export our products at the same time to all of the African nations, and this wouldn't be done throughout what's called supplies or supply chain or roads and logistic support. And this is happening now throughout Cairo Cape Town roads or throughout the Alexandria Victoria roads, which both of them will enable the internal exchange or the internal trade between all of the African nations in general.
Well, we spoke about investment, we spoke about trade, we spoke about commerce, we spoke about opening new roads and expanding more between not just Egypt and the African Horn, but also opening the gateway for the African countries to flourish more, not just in the region, but also worldwide. Speaking also about Egypt and the great connection that it do have with lots of African countries when it comes to education, that we have Al-Azhar Sharif, which is the lighthouse of the Islamic world. We have lots, hundreds and of thousands of students studying here in Al-Azhar, in many actually diverse fields.
Yes, and I think this is one of the most important sides, which is the rules of education, and especially for Al-Azhar, and as we know well that Al-Azhar is very popular in many of the African countries. We have a lot of students here in Egypt that are coming from African countries. I'd like to say that we'll make use of this by exporting our teachers, by exporting our educational organization to be stated on the land there. Will you help there to understand the real Islam, and you will help them to get away from other groups that are giving them or delivering them wrong ideas about the Islamic religion in general. Makes a lots of extremists, which will lead a lots of the Africans to be a potential for terrorism or any other actions like this. So we have a very key role here for Al-Azhar in order to be there in Africa, in order to do this important mission, not only for the African nations but for the whole world in general. I'd like to say also, or to speak also about other scientific and other educational institutions such as Cairo University and Alexandria University. Lots of the Egyptian universities have lots of branches on the African countries also. This will keep our rule active and will give the Egyptian rule on Africa, on the African nations, a lot of popularity. When you have students and colleagues that have been graduated from our Egyptian our educational organizations, they will be loyal to Egypt. They will help us in order. They will be so close to our country. They will be, I think, they will be having or serving our benefits on their lands. They will be tied to you by a way or another. So I'd like to say that whether we are talking about the important role of Al-Azhar Sharif or for any other educational organizations, this will serve our soft power. It's a part of our soft power, and it will help us to achieve our goals on Africa gradually.
Well, I think in the upcoming period there will be lots of cooperation and collaboration with different parts of the African continent. Well, Dr. Mohamed Salah, the international expert and the political expert, I would like to thank you so much for your informative call. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we came to the end of this special edition on Nile TV International. Stay always around to see more and to watch more of what's happening on the national and international arenas. Best regards from me, Shuruk Bakir.